Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
Causing the infection, and we're going to take that thing out. So they had a junior surgeon do the surgery that I didn't realize, and it didn't matter. That didn't resolve the infection. I still had the infection, so I had just had this lung surgery. Then about a week and a half later, I had the leg surgery, and it was supposed to be a week and a half in the hospital, turned into 2.5 months with an infected hip and an infected lung. Okay.
Wow.
And they botched the surgery. This guy botched the surgery. It caused me nerve bladder issues. So, you can imagine, thinking you need to go to the bathroom all the time when you don't. And it resulted in this on my hip, which is called a surgical hernia. That's actually my intestine, my small intestine. And no one could even believe that after like 6-7 months, that the dadgum thing I even healed up. It took months and months, man. I mean, it was just weeping. I had a dressing, I had dressing on like this, every day. And so, we got out of the hospital and we're back at work. And then what happened was over time, I'm wearing this shoe. So over time, the leg bone that was here moved up. So does that make sense?
There was nothing holding it in place.
Exactly. It's like Jello in there.
Yeah.
And as a result, like I had this raised shoe that I was wearing, and my shoe got to be that big.
Yeah, because it got shorter. That makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, the joke was with my orthopedic, I'm like, is this thing ever going to stop? Could it end up in my throat? And he's like, well, maybe. And I was just like, well, I guess I'll never need a toothpick ever again. I mean, it's just, and then the concern is it's going to start going up into your organs, right?
Right.
And so, so that happened. That was going on with that. And next scan, nobody, no, you do have pancreas cancer this time. You really do. And I said, all right, well, let's get a biopsy this time because you wouldn't let me have one last time to prove it. And so, and it's like, hey man, over there, it's like you do an appointment and then you don't get another chance to see the guy for a month or 6 weeks or 2 months,
Wow.
and you're in the waiting room and, there's 30 or 40 people waiting to see this guy and you get 5 minutes. Okay. So, I would come in and say, well, I would like to do a biopsy. And he's like, well, I want to cut it out. And I'm like, I don't want you to cut it out. It makes me a surgical diabetic. I don't be a diabetic.
Right.
And so we tangled with that for several months. And when they found the cancer, it was that big, 2 nickels on its side. Okay. By the time we got the biopsy and everything, in about 4 months, it had grown to a tennis ball.
And that was because you were in line to get it done, right?
Well, it was back and forth. It took about 3 to 4 months to get the biopsy done to confirm. And so then by that time, and the tumor was growing into my stomach, and I was having a lot of issues with eating and nausea and things, and I was losing weight, and I was I could look in the mirror and you look in the mirror, man, and I'm like, I'm losing weight, I'm pale as a ghost, and I'm dying. I know I'm dying.
Wow.
So waiting around. I wanted to radiate the thing, I just wanted to try to zap it, and he's like, so we confirm it. And then, the time was running out. I knew it was running out. So I went to a couple of private physicians to get their advice. And this guy that I went into just said, look, Trent, the last scan, It's growing into your stomach lining, and we will not do radiation because we could burn a hole through you,
Mhm.
and you could internally bleed to death.
Oh, wow.
And we're not going to do surgery because cutting into your stomach, we may not be able to get it to stop bleeding. You could die, of bleeding out on the operating table.
Mhm.
So I won't do any of these things. And I said, man, like I gotta, like I know with treatment, it's less than a 5% chance to
Yeah.
make it. With treatment, you're telling me to go home and do what? And he's like, well, I don't have any options for you. And I said, well, basically, you're telling me to go home and wait to die, right?
Yeah.
He said, Trent, I can't help you. I can't help you.
Hmm.
So then I had an appointment with a private oncologist, and he gave me a year. And so I thought, golly, I'm going to go home and be with my family. I mean,
Mm.
we're still locked down in New Zealand, can't
Yeah.
do anything. And I thought, heck, man, I'm going to go home. And after I got the pancreas thing, man, I had a good couple weeks of just kind of giving up.
Yeah.
And I was tired, man. I was tired of fighting. And my team was like, man, just go home and rest. Just go home
Mhm.
and relax. Well, I did that. But I'll tell you what, after about a week of doing that, all that happened was I started playing head games because after about 11, 10, 11 o'clock, I'm tired of
Mhm.
watching the morning, wake up good morning, and then a couple of talk shows that are depressing. And then
Yeah.
I'm bored because everybody's at work and I'm all by myself, and all I'm thinking about is how I'm going to die of cancer, you
Yeah.
know? And so I got on the phone, after one of the appointments with the pancreatic doctor. I'm on the phone with my folks one day, and you know, I could feel it with them. They were starting to lose hope.
Mhm.
My parents are awesome people. They're strong Christians, they're firm believers. They're part of my team, man. I wouldn't be here without them. And
Yeah.
hopelessness, the despair, the sadness, and everything. And you know what? I just thought, I'm not giving up.
Mm.
I remember my dad said, he's a fighter, he's a
Mm.
quitter. And I just thought, man, you know what? I may go out, but I'm going out with my dignity and my
Right.
pride, and I'm going down swinging, man. If that's what happens, and I'm going down, if I'm going down, it'll be on my last breath because I'm going to
Mhm.
fight this thing. And
Good
so
for
that's where
you.
my mind switched. And so I decided to come home, and with everything and the travel and being all across the world, and my folks down there with the leg thing, it was so hard.
Mhm.
And I thought, let's just start at home. I could go to Indiana Center, Mayo, or Cleveland Clinic, and I thought,
Right.
let's just start at home. I had a couple appointments online with the local guys here in
Mhm.
Northwest Arkansas, and I thought, you know what, we're just gonna start there.
Mhm.
So I got here the morning I got off the plane. I went straight into the radiologist. Um, he waited for me for 3 hours.
Mm.
Actually, I was supposed to be there the day before, and my switchover was in LA, and the concierge pushing me around in the wheelchair was really slow. I missed my flight,
Mm.
and then I had to stay overnight, and we had to reroute everything. I had to stay overnight in Dallas. It was a big mess, man. A big
Mm.
mess with this leg,
Sounds like.
dragging this leg around and everything. And the radiologist waited on me for 3 hours to show up late, and we had a talk. And he said, "Look, he's the guy. He's the guy that gave me my hope back." He said, "Look, I
Mhm.
think we can zap this thing." And by the time we zapped that thing, man, it was this big, the size of a softball.
Mm.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, everything was just getting worse with my
Yeah.
stomach and the pain and the eating and everything. So we zapped the sucker and had to wait a few months, and we were clear.
Hmm.
And yeah, and then we did some immunotherapy because immunotherapy is kind of the new thing instead of
Yeah.
chemo. It's more like targets and missiles something
Mhm.
instead of like chemotherapy, which just scorched earth,
Shotgun. Yeah.
just kills everything, right?
Yeah.
We did that because it had metastatically moved, in New Zealand on me, and so we did that to prevent it. And at this point, I have a scan. I have a scan later on this week, and I'll be, almost right in the area of 2.5 years cancer free, man.
Wow.
So
Congratulations,
yeah,
bud. That's awesome.
yeah, I
So what about
appreciate it.
your hip?
Yeah, yeah. So the thing with the hip, right? So I had the infection. So I had the hip infection deal, and we never got rid of that in New Zealand. And so the first goal was let's get over the cancer. The
Mhm.
second goal was we have to get over the infection to get a hip put in.
Mhm.
And, with so much of that hip not there, it's a virtually impossible thing to get a hip implant. They told
Yeah.
me in New Zealand, you'll never walk again. Okay. You'll be on crutches until you're in a wheelchair, and that'll be your life.
Wow.
And I never accepted that. I would never accept that. And so I found a guy up here in Northwest Arkansas, man, and we did we did some IV antibiotics,
Mhm.
and they were really tough on me. I had to do them for 3 months for 2 hours every single day, and
Mhm.
the nausea and the thing and all the stuff, and we got it, man. And I'll tell you,
Hmm.
we cleared up the infection. This is one of my miracle things that happened. So I was at church, um, with my folks, and the pastor, at times he would say, he'd say like, somebody here has something going on with their left arm, right?
Mhm.
And I'm speaking to that, and that's going to be healed. And so, I was there, and he didn't know, he didn't, I mean, he knew me, but he didn't know about the details of my
Right.
situation. And he said, "Hey, look, he was just up there, and he said, look, somebody has an infection in their hip, and it is going to be gone. I call it gone in the name of Jesus." And, I was like, okay, let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, the next week when I went to church at the end of the service, towards the end of the service,
Mhm.
I looked down, and my leg, I mean, everything had healed, but the infection was still in there. I
Mhm.
looked down, and on the incision line, this thing exploded, like, with pus and blood and fluid and everything. Like, it was all down my pants and my leg. I didn't even notice it until it was running down my leg because I can't feel a lot of stuff in my hip.
Right.
So, I mean, it was so much. I had to go to the bathroom, and it took me like 15 or 20 minutes to clean the thing up.
Hmm.
And I had to change pants and everything. Okay.
Wow.
And I'm like, I think a miracle's happened.
And you're at
And
church right now when this happened?
this was at church when it happened. Okay.
Okay.
And then about 2 or 3 days later, okay, I was just upstairs sitting here. I was at my computer,
Mhm.
and it happened again. It just exploded, and I run to the bathroom, I jump in the tub, and it just goes everywhere.
Hmm.
About a day or two later, the pain from the infection, gone. No pain,
Hmm.
right? And you think about like, right, you get a splinter, that
Mhm.
hurts. You get an infected splinter, that hurts like 10 times more, right?
Right.
And so the infection in my hip was like that.
Mhm.
Okay. And and I s- you know and so it progressed from there. And
Mhm.
so I'm like, you know what, I know this has happened. I know this has happened. So I went into my ID doc, the infectious disease doctor, and I said,
Mhm.
let's do labs, let's do biopsies, let's do everything, because we were going to have to prove to the orthopedic
Yeah.
that I didn't have infection. They won't
Yeah.
operate on you. Yeah, they
Right.
won't do that if you've had infection, because you have about an 80% chance of
Right.
reoccurrence, even if it's not showing up or anything. And it
Right.
being so close to all my organs and everything, no one would touch me.
Mhm.
And so I had researched all over the world, and I had researched all over the country and had appointments and everything. And yeah, people, even though the infection had, we had proven that it was gone, people wouldn't touch me. They didn't want anything to do with me. And so I have a orthopedic advisor kind of guy I catch up with every 6 months.
Mm.
And I just said, hey man, we got the cancer, we got the infection, and let's I want to walk. I
Mhm.
want to walk again. It is my destiny. And he said, there is a graduate that worked under me at the University of Arkansas Medical School, and he's at Mayo, and he does these kind of surgeries. He specializes in doing hip surgeries and hip and knees that no one else will do, that no one else will
Wow.
try. And
Wow.
so, hey man, I got my hope back. And
Yeah.
so we're in the middle right now of a 3-part surgery. Oh yeah, you know what? Let me show you this. Let me show you this thing. So
Yeah.
this is my pelvis. Okay. So
Right.
that's what it looks like in the live. And I mean, like, look at that. Like,
Yeah.
this is how much bone that they took out. I mean, I don't have anything. and there's nothing to bolt anything to.
Right.
There's just nothing.
There's
There's
no
nothing there,
apparatus.
man.
Yeah.
So, yeah, right. So we started. We started a 3-part surgery that I'm in the middle of right now. So I did the first one, which was a prep deal, and then we put the permanent hip in, and we did that back in July, and that looks. Let me show you what a normal hip implant looks like.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me show you what the largest, most complex
Yeah.
ever done,
I see it.
procedures never done before.
Yeah.
It's like eight screws,
I
3
see
rods.
screws. Yeah.
Yes, screws and rods, procedures that have never been attempted, stuff into my spine, and basically this thing is really just an engineering project that they're trying out on some crazy dude that they would do it. And so
Yeah.
this is the little piece, okay, that they did, and it goes kind of something like that. So that is my $1 million. I don't know if you can see that very well.
I can. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it. So that's
Yep.
my $1 million piece. And so obviously that's where the ball fits in, right?
Wow.
And so, in July, the surgery was successful. 18 hours over 2 days. I had to do the leg part on one day. I had to do the spine part on the next day. And, a week and a half later, man, we left. Everything was going good. Then I started having symptoms of fever and chills and things. Took them about 6 to 8 weeks to figure out it was infected.
Right.
So then I had to go back up there. We had to redo the thing. So we
Wow.
redid the thing in October, and they put me on these antibiotics, man. I mean, it's one of these hospital-borne infection things,
Yeah.
that nothing kills. I mean, and so I was on antibiotics for 3 months, made me feel terrible, caused me mental health issues, all sorts of side effects. I felt like I was going through menopause. And
Yeah, it's a real
so
thing. Yeah.
hey, we've cleared up the infection. And so what I got back was I didn't quite get back, all that length, but I got back a lot of it. And I'll tell you, that makes a big difference because now I've got stability,
Yeah.
I've got functionality, I'm closer to the ground. And so the third step is what they would do is they take the femur, they cut it in half, and they do a bone lengthening procedure over a couple of months. And so if I want to try to even this thing out, in a year or so.
So it's number 3.
Yeah, so that would be number 3
Right.
to do. So,
Which is yet to happen. That's going to happen.
you know what, to be honest with you, after the infection and, everything, I was super gung ho. Now I'm like, we got to rehab this thing. And, I've had to rehab this leg about 3 or 4 times going through this stuff. It's tough. It's a tough journey. So it's to be determined, but I know that probably in about the next 3 or 4 months, 5 months, I'm going to be walking without crutches, how I am now. And you know what? That's good enough. May
So
just be.
let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Through all of this,
Yeah.
what's the number one thing you learned?
Believe in God and trust God. And I'm a practical guy, man. I'm a factual guy. I'm a realist. And, I'm like, these are the facts. This is the deal. And I'm going to tell you what, it took me months to convince my head of what my heart wanted after 5 surgeons told me, that I was going to die of cancer, that I had a year left, that I would never walk again. And, the way I did that is, I tackled it on all levels. I changed my diet. I started exercising again. I mean, I couldn't even touch my toes, man. I started out doing like a minute to 2 minutes of yoga. And you want to talk? I mean, I would do that and just excruciating pain. But, I knew I had to do something. And I knew that I had to start building this leg up because the thing had turned into a toothpick, man. I mean, I drug it around, infected, for over 2 years. I couldn't use it.
Yeah.
And, it was just withering away.
Yeah.
And, so I did that. And, then I had to get my head right, and I knew my emotions would fall if I got my head right. So the
Yeah.
way I got my head right is I started cutting out all the negativity, right?
Yeah.
Negative friends, negative situations. And, if I wasn't at work, I was putting something positive in my head. I
Yeah.
was finding somebody, I was finding a story online of some guy that beat cancer. I was finding, I was reading a book about a guy that, had been paralyzed from the neck down and he learned to walk again. And I was listening to sermons on the miracles. And man, I'd put something on and I'd put it on repeat. I'd fall asleep listening to it. And I'd wake up listening to it. And I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I would be saying it to myself.
Mhm.
And, and I believe, like there is so much power in your words. There's so much power.
Yeah.
And, when you say something to somebody,
Mhm.
it's in the universe.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
it's real. It's real when you say it,
it's published. It's
Yeah.
published. Thought is a thought, but
Mhm.
once it's in the universe hears it.
Yeah.
And I just kept over and over, man.
You're
I'm gonna
the
be
walking, talking billboard for whatever you let in, you're to blame for,
yeah, and I'll tell you
right?
what,
So
it
you
is.
controlled that gate.
Oh yeah, oh
You were
yeah,
your own gatekeeper. You
that's right,
controlled what you let in.
that's right.
So let me ask
And
you this.
yeah,
What's
yeah.
up for tomorrow? What's your future look like? I mean, I know you have
Um,
another surgery potentially, but
yeah.
where are you headed from here?
Well, last week we finalized the sale on the popcorn business, so I'm done with that.
Yeah.
And I'm moving into public speaking.
Yeah.
Um,
You should.
Public speaking. I recently co-authored a book with a group, and so I've got a best-selling book that's got my part of my story in there. I'm potentially gonna write my own biography,
Mhm.
and I want to be a
When's the book coming out?
well, I've already got the book is out. The book is out. It's on Amazon, and
Okay.
it is called Breaking the Silence.
There you go.
Voices of Survivors. So it's
Okay.
about 20 co-authors
Okay.
by this lady that organized it, and everybody's overcome something. And I have the chapter about overcoming cancer.
Gotcha. So
And
it's breaking the silence.
yeah, Breaking the
Okay.
Silence, Voices of Survivors. Yep.
Okay. All right. We'll get
And,
that. We'll get a link to that on
yeah.
Amazon. Get it on your
And
description.
and what I want to do is, I mean, you know, my calling is to tell my story,
Yeah.
provide hope and inspiration.
Yeah. You need to
And
do that.
I'd love to be a cancer coach, help
Yeah.
people on their cancer journey, help people accomplish goals that they think they can't get to,
Yeah.
and do public speaking. That's what I'm moving towards.
Yeah. That's what
And
you need to do, dude.
yeah,
That's
man.
what you need to do.
So that's what I'm rolling
Well,
to.
I cannot thank you enough for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. This has been a super fast hour. Uh,
Yeah, I know, man. I know.
but I really appreciate you being on, and it was great to
Yeah,
meet you, buddy. Great to get to know you.
sure. Do you mind? Can I just give people a couple tips that I like
Of
to
course,
always share?
of course.
Yeah. So the one thing is, right, there's power in your words.
Mhm.
And like you may have these thoughts, but the way I learned is that, to trick if you keep telling yourself something, you'll
Mhm.
eventually believe it. Because
Yeah.
it's the same thing, right? You keep saying, I'm a loser, I'm a loser, I'm a loser. You believe you're a loser.
Right.
If you keep telling yourself, I'm a winner, I'm a winner, I'm gonna beat this, I'm gonna beat this.
Mhm.
So I just kept doing that. And anytime someone would say something that was negative over that, I would speak on top of it.
Mhm.
Even the doctor,
Yeah.
even the doctor, right? And they look at me crazy. And so, that was a big help.
Mhm.
And the thing was, I decided I didn't want to, I was up in the air. Am I going to live? Am I going to die? Am I going to give up? And I made a decision. And my reason was because I didn't want to die on my folks. I
Yeah.
didn't want them to bury their kid. And so my reason was stronger
Yeah.
than my actual goal. And when you're having bad days, that's what you got to remember is your reason.
Yeah.
And
Well, no
so,
doubt.
a couple of analogies, just two quick little analogies that I like to use, and this helps. This has helped me. People like to gig me. They like to ask. They kind of, wire you up. Hey, did you, you've had cancer 3 times? Are you gonna, aren't you afraid you're gonna get it again? No, I'm absolutely not. And let me tell you why. Because life is like a deck of cards. There's
Mhm.
52 in it. I got some rough cards. I played that hand. Those cards are gone. And
Yeah.
so I'm hopeful for the next card that I pull off the deck's gonna be
Right.
better because I've already got a lot of bad ones out of the deck.
Yeah. I
Okay.
gotcha.
And so
Good way to look at it.
you know, that's one of the things that they just that next card, baby, it's gonna be a better one. And the other thing was, you know, it got so heavy with this life and death and living and dying and everything. And you know, it's that old cliche of, you know, you know, the game of life. We're
Mhm.
just playing the game of life. And
Mhm.
so football's my game. Football's what I love. And so I started putting myself in that situation like
Mhm.
this is a football game.
Mhm.
And I'm a quarterback. I get to choose who's on my team. I
Mhm.
get to choose my coaches, you know, could be my coaches or my parents or my doctors, you know, the people on my team or my friends.
Mhm.
And you know, on that, you don't make a touchdown on every play. You don't
Mhm.
make yardage on every play. And you know, you make a bad play, it's okay because you got 4 downs,
Mhm.
right? And and so, you know, if you get tired or you're not sure what to do, you call a timeout. Go
Mhm.
to the sideline, talk to your coach.
Mhm.
But you got to get back in the game because when the timeout's over, you got to make the next play. So
Yeah.
that's what I would do a lot of times. If something hit me hard, man, and it just threw me for a loop, I would just do what I needed to do, and then I take the evening off, try to just settle, get a good meal in me, get some good sleep, weigh my options, and then the next morning we're going for it, you
Yeah.
know, and hey, man, you know, I've hit 2 of my touchdowns, you know,
Mhm.
I've hit 2 of them. The cancer's gone and, you know, the infection's gone and I am close. I am marching towards, you know, the touchdown on this leg, man. And so, I think that that kind of helps people. There's so many things that you can do with that football analogy. And if football's not your game,
Mhm.
then pick your game,
Yeah.
you know, and, you know, we're practicing, man. I'm practicing every day.
Mhm.
I'm practicing every day, you know, to get into that real game. And so, you know, those things help me a lot. And I just like to share those, you
Yeah.
know, and those are some of the things that would be in my book and, you know, in part of my coaching,
Yeah.
you know, curriculum that I would have for people on their journey.
That's
Yeah.
awesome, Trent. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
I know you've helped a ton of people today. I cannot thank you enough for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience, but it was great to meet you.
You too, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me. You know, we're going to help somebody. I know we will.
Yeah, a
Uh,
lot. A
yeah.
lot. I love your
Appreciate it.
story, bud.
Thanks, man. Okay.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.